Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on, so this is Love by Elizabeth Lim and Cold Hearted by Serena Valentino. So This is Love by Elizabeth Lim is book 9 in Disney's Twisted Tales series. After her fairy godmother helps her attend the ball at the palace, Cinderella meets the prince, but the magic that got her there expires at midnight. Fleeing, Cinderella loses a glass slipper, the only clue to her identity. The prince issues a search for the runaway princess, but Cinderella's hateful stepmother, Lady Tremaine, locks her away, and Cinderella never gets the chance to try on the glass slipper that proves who she is. Lady Tremaine is preparing to send Cinderella away for good, and in fear for her life, Cinderella manages to escape. She meets a young woman who is a seamstress at the palace, and so begins Cinderella's new life working in the palace. It doesn't take long for Cinderella to unravel a conspiracy in the castle, one that threatens the future of the realm, and she must find a way to stop the conspirator before it's too late. I really enjoyed the premise of this particular book, the whole what-if scenario. So yeah, as all the Twisted Tales books in this series do, they ask a what-if sort of question, something that's going to change, something about the original cartoon that you love and know. So yeah, this one is asking, what if Cinderella never tried on the glass slipper? And this just totally worked, you guys. And it really did change just certain elements of the story and whatnot. Because as you know from the original cartoon, Cinderella does try on the glass slipper, and she gets to have her happily ever after with the prince. So of course, if Cinderella never gets that chance, if she's locked up in her room, you know, Lady Tremaine locks her up in that room and Cinderella cannot escape and get out. Yeah, Cinderella does not try on that slipper, so what does this do? And it opens up just such a world of possibilities and opportunities. And I just completely adored this book and the direction that it went. And the book is doing a couple different things. For starters, it's definitely making Cinderella a much more proactive heroine, a much more interesting heroine. And yeah, because Cinderella she didn't get to live her life of happily ever after. Yeah, Lady Tremaine basically is like, hey, I'm going to sell you to somebody to get rid of you. And yeah, in this moment of fear for her life, Cinderella does manage to escape. She meets another young woman who's a seamstress at the palace. And so yeah, Cinderella in turn, she gets into the palace and she becomes like a servant, and she gets to work for a woman who is a duchess, who ends up being like the aunt of Prince Charming and whatnot. Yeah, the story it allows Cinderella, like I said, to be a lot more proactive. She really has to fend for herself in this book. She has no protection. You know, in the original cartoon, she has her fairy godmother who helps her in kind of her big crisis, her big time of need. But yeah, you get the idea in this book, something that the cartoon never went into and never mentions, you know. So as part of the extended world building of this book, you find out that magic has actually been outlawed. It's forbidden to do magic. Magic is a no-no. So yeah, you learn fairly early on that the fairy godmother, when she, you know, turned the pumpkin into a coach and the mice into horses and gave Cinderella her nice ball gown and everything, that was a big no-no. And it explains too the whole thing at midnight, you know, when Cinderella has to leave the ball at midnight. The fairy godmother, her magic kind of has just enough power that it will help Cinderella till midnight, but it won't be detectable, you know. The magic won't be known, I guess. I don't know. There's big old logic going on in this book. So yeah, Cinderella in this book, she really has to fend for herself, especially since magic is outlawed. She can't just be like, hey, fairy godmother, help me out of this terrible situation, you know? So I really love Cinderella in this story. Just the nature of her character, she's a lot more relatable. She's a lot more fun, I feel like. She really has to think on her feet, you know? She has to be really quick quick on her feet and to really think through any given situation. Yet definitely use her brains and her intelligence, put them to good use. And Cinderella quickly, she's only there for like a freaking day, you guys. She quickly unravels a big conspiracy going on within the palace. We find out at the start of this book, Prince Charming, he goes by Charles in this installment. Charles's father is ill. Is he possibly on his deathbed? Who knows? There's just something going on with the king. So Charles has come back from university. He may or may not have to take over responsibility of the realm at some point. And yes, Cinderella, in the meantime, she is quickly unraveling. There's some sort of conspiracy going on to try to get the king out of the way, and those kind of more at the top of the food chain, if you will, for them to kind of take over and kind of push Charles to the side, or at least kind of rule through Charles, who they see as really young and naive and who has absolutely no experience. But yeah, little do the conspirators know, hey, Charles is a lot more intelligent, and he's learned a lot at university, and he's ready to take over leadership if he has to. So yeah, Cinderella, she quickly finds out there's some sort of conspiracy going on within the palace, something dark and sinister, and she makes it her mission to be like, hey, this could threaten our world, it can threaten the future of magic, because yeah, those same people who are threatening the realm at the moment, they're the ones who outlawed magic to begin with. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this book, yeah, guys. And then yeah, on top of that, the other thing kind of going on with this book is definitely enhancing and improving the relationship between Cinderella and Prince Charming, aka Charles. You know, because from the cartoon, all you get with them is their one dance, and do they even speak to each other, you guys? Seriously, it's been a long time since I've seen Cinderella. Do they even speak to each other? I think they barely even say a couple words to each other. So yeah, in this book, you get huge, lengthy chapters where the two of them get to speak with one another. Yes, their romance and relationship, there are moments that it's a little bit cheesy, just way too highly romanticized, you know, but because they actually really don't have too many moments together. They have a big, huge moment at the beginning of the book, and then kind of a little ways, kind of past the halfway point, they do start having some more conversations and whatnot. So yeah, those few moments that they do have in this book, Elizabeth Lim really has to make those moments work and count, so you are invested. So yeah, when they do have their moments together, you do get lengthy chapters with Charles and Cinderella really talking, you know, like really, really talking to one another, and the things that they like, the things that they support, their interests and vulnerabilities, and kind of their traumatic backstories and whatnot. So yeah, they in this book, they still don't have a hell of a lot of time together, but it's still way more than what they spent in the cartoon, obviously. And I did really enjoy the Charles and Cinderella relationship in here. It made me like them as a couple, you know, made me really want to ship them and support them together. Yeah, like I said, it does get a little bit cheesy, maybe a little melodramatic and silly, but it's, you know, it's still a Disney book, you know, it's still a Disney book, and it's like, I still loved it. And something that I also highly enjoyed about this book was the original characters. When I have read maybe other Disney books, and there's like original characters incorporated, sometimes that's very hit or miss with me. And a good example of that is Serena Valentino's Villains series, which I'll be talking about that book in the next review that I'm doing after this. Serena Valentino's Villains series does a poor job of integrating original characters, and it does not work, and it's really terribly done. But what Elizabeth Lim did in this book, she has several original characters, and they totally worked, and I really liked them. And it made me sad, like, oh, they're not even in the original cartoon. That makes me sad. I wish they were. Like, a character in here is she's a duchess, and she's the aunt of Charles, sister of the king. I freaking loved her character. She's a no-nonsense, honest woman with a history and backstory that's rather tragic. She does almost come across as kind of rude, you know, and unlikable, but once Cinderella is able to kind of get to her and really figure this woman out, her and the Duchess actually have a really nice relationship and rapport with one another. And yeah, the Duchess was an original character that absolutely worked for me. And it's so sad she wasn't in the original cartoon. And then, yeah, like Cinderella's friend that she meets that helps her get into the palace as a seamstress. Yeah, I loved that character. Her name's Louisa. She was a great original character. And then, this is not an original character. This is a character that was in the cartoon, but still, in this book, just way more fleshed out, the Grand Duke. I freaking loved the Grand Duke. The Grand Duke is the guy, you know, in the cartoon who is kind of constantly at the king's side, and he's the one who brings the glass slipper and has Cinderella try the glass slipper on. You know, that guy. You know, in the cartoon, he's a very kind of silly, over-the-top, flamboyant character. But in this book, he's definitely kind of taken down a little bit and a lot more darker, a lot more serious. Yeah, the Grand Duke is a highly ambitious man looking out for number one. Yeah, he is just doing some plotting left and right all over the damn place. He just has his fingers in every little plot going on. I freaking loved the Grand Duke. He was an absolute terrific villain in this. And I just really liked how Elizabeth Lim handled that character. Because like I said, in the cartoon, he's very flamboyant and just over the top and silly. And yeah, how she just kind of handled that character and really kind of put a more realistic take on that character, what his motivations would be, his ambitions, you know. So yeah, he was definitely a highly enjoyable character. Yeah, even though this book is really about Cinderella and Charles to some extent, there are massive amounts of chapters where you might just be spending time with the Duchess, or you might just be spending time with the Grand Duke. It really adds a great sense of world building. You know, adding more characters to this world, fleshing more characters out, really establishing the world and the surrounding kingdom and the things that are at risk. You know, like I said, magic has been outlawed, and yes, Cinderella wants to bring it back. So I think Elizabeth Lim did a great job with the world building of this, you know, really expanding the world of Cinderella from what we see in the cartoon. Because in the cartoon, you know, we really just see Cinderella's life in the palace, that's kind of it. And you don't really get much more than that. You don't really see like the stakes of everything else going on, you know, all the dramas and squabbles between kingdoms and realms, you know. So yeah, I highly enjoyed the world building, the extended world building, and it made Cinderella a lot more fun, you know. So yeah, another great installment to the Twisted Tales series. So far I have been loving and enjoying every single one of these books. I would probably put this one up fairly high. It would be kind of up at the top with the ones that are my favorites. It definitely would not be like in the middle or at the bottom. Definitely much more higher up, because I enjoyed like the Mulan Twisted Tale and the Beauty and the Beast Twisted Tale. So yeah, oh yeah, and the Little Mermaid. I highly enjoyed the Little Mermaid one as well. So yeah, this one is probably going to be pretty far up there. Yeah. Twisted Tales are just, they're not like the world's best literature, you know, but they're still just so fun and engaging, and getting to spend time with these, your favorite Disney characters. It's just a lot of fun, and I just thoroughly enjoy them. Cold Hearted is book 8 in the Disney Villains series by Serena Valentina. This installment tells the origin story for Lady Tremaine, the wicked stepmother of Cinderella. Whew, this book, you guys, every time I do these book reviews for the Disney Villains series, there's just all sorts of hate and negativity. Oh my. I was really expecting to like this book, because at first things were going very well and I was enjoying it, but then the very last chapter of this book, and just a few little things that kind of was happening near the end, totally kind of ruined my enjoyment of this book. And I was very, very tempted to give this book a 1-star rating, because it pissed me off that bad. And it was going so well too. I thought there was a lot of potential to this. So far, my favorite books in this series, I highly enjoyed the Evil Queen origin story. And after that, I highly enjoyed the Cruella de Vil origin story. And I was really expecting this book to come in third. Thing is, despite my absolute hatred of some of the things going on in this book, I still, weirdly enough, guys, would place this as my third favorite book, because the other books in this series are still absolute trash and garbage. That's how much I kind of really dislike this series to some extent, that I still, despite some of my absolute hatred for this book, it still goes up in third place. I don't know what that says about this series. I definitely just have a really strong relationship with this series because there's so much potential, and I wish this series just went a different direction. But yeah, let's get into some of my issues with this book. So my biggest huge issue with this book is the fact that Lady Tremaine is treated like absolute trash in this book. And that, I think that was uncalled for. Because at the start of this book, I actually, even though, you know, in the context of Cinderella the cartoon, Lady Tremaine is the villain. But that's the point of all these Disney villains books, is to give you an origin to the villains and how they became the way that they did. And so far, the best books in this series have really made you feel a lot of sympathy and pity for the villains. And so at the start of this book, it was going well because we see Lady Tremaine, who her first husband has tragically died. She's a widow. She's just kind of constantly around her two daughters. She's approaching middle age, and she's sad and depressed and lonely, and she's just looking for some excitement and to get away from kind of the dullness of her life. And I could absolutely sympathize with that, you know. So yeah, Lady Tremaine, she gets invited to a party by one of her friends, and it's here that she meets her soon-to-be next husband, which would be the father of Cinderella. And this man, he's very mysterious, and he intrigues Lady Tremaine, and he represents a life to her that hey, he's an escape. I can get an escape from my dull, mundane life and head somewhere new and exciting. And yeah, that's where the story kind of starts shifting, and you get the idea, oh yeah, she's getting way in over her head, and she doesn't realize things. You know, she's very, very naive and innocent to the whole situation. So then, of course, Lady Tremaine does marry this new husband, and yeah, we quickly establish that this new husband, he is a complete jerk and a complete asshole. And yeah, my sympathy for Lady Tremaine, I still had it, you know, that she got into this situation and now she can't escape it. And you basically get the idea that her new husband only married her because he wanted some free labor. He just wanted someone to look after Cinderella and clean his house. And yeah, Cinderella in the meantime, you know, normally I love Cinderella. Cinderella's all great. But in this book, oh my god, I freaking hated Cinderella. If I was supposed to like Cinderella in this book, Serena Valentino did a very poor, despicable job. Because I did. I found Cinderella despicable. I found her unlikable. I found her really spoiled and pampered. I absolutely freaking hated her. And that's pretty bad, you know, because, yeah, like I said, Lady Tremaine is supposed to be the villain. You know, she becomes the villain eventually. But it's like, well, I absolutely totally understand why she's going to become the villain, you know. And something else I hated about this book. The book runs off this whole idea of predestiny. And in the context of this book, there's like a book of fairy tales. And in this book of fairy tales, Lady Tremaine is apparently in it, and it says she's going to become the villain. She's going to become the wicked stepmother of Cinderella. And I really didn't like that in the context of this book. This whole predestiny, and Lady Tremaine was powerless to stop her destiny, you know? I didn't really like that. It didn't really work for me. And another thing I hated about this book, it was going rather well to some extent, and then here come the Odd Sisters. The Odd Sisters were missing in action in the Cruella book, which is why I love the Cruella book. Here come the Odd Sisters. They're in like just maybe a chapter or two, and from there on in this book, it totally ruined it. That was kind of it for me with this book. It totally destroyed the book. That's how much I hate the Odd Sisters, because they just don't work. They're original creations by Serena Valentino that do not work for me. Totally destroy this book when I think it had potential to kind of be better. And I think in general, with this book, I just found the writing to be incredibly lazy. Such lazy writing, and kind of plot contrivances and plot conveniences that kind of really made no sense, all in the name of trying to present Lady Tremaine as a villain, which, like I said, I never felt like she was a villain in this. I felt a lot of great sympathy for her, but yet the book wants you to believe she is a villain, when I don't think she ever was. Yeah, there is, to me, I feel like there was a form of gaslighting going on in this book. Like I said, her husband manipulating her into a situation that she becomes his wife, but really he just wanted her as free labor, as a free housekeeper, you know? I found that as a form of gaslighting. The manipulation, the psychological, emotional manipulation going on there. And then the way this book ends, just the outcome of Lady Tremaine as a character, just such trash, lazy writing with how she was treated at the very end. And the characters who are supposedly good, you know, the supposed good characters of this book, acting like they did such a good thing with how they get rid of Lady Tremaine. And kind of very much like the Cruella book. You know, the Cruella book actually dealt a lot with Cruella's her mental health. It dealt a lot with mental health issues. And this book also gets into a lot of mental health issues with Lady Tremaine. And because Lady Tremaine gets a bit unstable and she's psychologically tortured and whatnot, her mental health just degrades rapidly by the end of this book. All of that as seen as making her a villain. Like, all that makes her a bad person, when instead we should be sympathizing with her poor mental health and whatnot. She is villainized because of how unstable she becomes. And like I said, the good characters think they've done a good thing by doing what they do to her. I'm not going to spoil what they do to her at the end of this book. They think they've done a good thing with her, but instead her mental health is villainized. Her psychological state of mind is just villainized. And it's like, you're the ones who did this to her. The whole predestiny thing that's established in this book, you're the ones who did this to her. And the way mental health is explored in this book, it's absolutely disgusting. I found it absolutely disgusting. It just did not, everything going on at the end of this book absolutely did not work for me. And yet, disgusting is the one word that comes to mind. Serena Valentino, she is just doing a poor job with these books. I just don't think she's a very good writer. I hate to say it. I hate to be mean. I mean, I don't know, maybe she is a good writer, it's just Disney books are not her thing. You know, fortunately, I am done with this series for right now. The next book that's coming out is about Captain Hook. I do still plan on getting the Captain Hook book, because I'm kind of hoping the Captain Hook book will be a standalone. You know, when these books are standalones, that's when they work for me, and that's when I enjoy them. So I'm kind of hoping maybe the Captain Hook book will redeem this series. Who knows? I could be terribly mistaken. But for right now, this is the last book in the series until the Captain Hook book comes out. And yeah, I just need a breather and I need a break from it, because after this book especially, I'm just so absolutely livid with Serena Valentino's writing and how she kind of treats these villains. It's hard to explain. You just gotta read these books and maybe you'll kind of understand what I'm trying to say. But yeah, wow. Bad. Bad. Whew, so you guys, after that negative review for Cold Hearted, good freaking God. I feel like I need to start with the Twisted Tales books, like maybe last. You know, end the video on like a nice positive note, because I end these reviews so negatively. It's a shame. But yeah. You guys, have you guys read any of these Disney books? If you can't tell, I definitely recommend Twisted Tales over Villains. Yeah, definitely. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.